There's a lot of attention being paid to the penetration of renewables into the global electrical system. So it's primarily wind and solar. But the combination of renewables with information technology like artificial intelligence is in fact revolutionizing the way we make and distribute and pay for electricity. This is basically the foundation of the energy transition. We can't overstate the importance of it. And part of this change is increasing reliance upon electricity markets. So we're going to talk to Dr. David Robinson of the Oxford Energy Institute about a proposal he and a co-author have made in a recent paper about how to design a two-market system. So welcome to the interview, David.
Thank you very much. Glad to be
Now,
here.
this is a bit of a nerdy kind of a, topic. So we'll try to keep it fairly simple for the folks at home. And of course, your interviewer, who is not an economist. But please give us an overview of your paper.
Okay, it starts with the proposition that electricity markets that exist today were designed for the 20th century, for the technologies of oil, coal, gas, and the economics of those technologies were what explains the design of the market, sometimes over here called the energy-only market. Won't go into the details. The point is that with new technology, that is renewable energy, and with new economics where the marginal cost is now zero, once you've built it, we need new markets. So we've always needed markets, but now the markets are even more important. Now, your point about if you want the technology side on the consumer side, that is artificial intelligence, smart charging of electric vehicles is critical, because what we see now is that we've got a system where the flexibility that's needed to deal with the intermittency of wind and solar can be provided from the demand side, from the consumer side. That's the essential argument. And from there, you have to then redesign markets so that consumer flexibility and consumer decisions can actually drive markets, where is in the past, all of the decisions were being taken up top in the large generation would produce the electricity, it would then go down the pipes, arrive at the consumer would pay, and have very little to say about, if you want, providing the system with flexibility and deciding to what extent it wanted to rely on the system. Yeah.
So a couple of examples. So this works at both the top and the bottom in terms of market flexibility. So if we think in terms of California, they didn't have enough generation, so they needed a market mechanism to scale back consumption. But yes, on the other hand, there are times when wind and solar are producing more electricity than the system can use. And then in that case, you have to scale up demand. And the market system that you're proposing would do both of those things. Have I got that correct?
That's right. Consumers would basically be given an incentive to consume energy when it was being produced. So they would, in other words, they have incentives to, for instance, to have storage batteries to consume or use, or if you want, buy more electricity when the renewables were available. And then when they were not available, they would use their own electricity, which they'd stored. And likewise, if there was no electricity, they certainly wouldn't be, no renewable electricity, they would be discouraged from buying it because the price in the other market would be very high. So in other words, there are two markets, the as available, which is the renewables, and the on demand, which is fossil fuel. The consumers are being given a price incentive to consume when the renewables are operating and not when the fossil is operating.
Now, this is very interesting because I've been doing a fair amount of interviews and research on the evolution of the utility business model in North America. And one of the points that comes up over and over again is, as utilities and regulators, this is a very important point, grapple with these issues, every jurisdiction is different. You might have a California that has a background of gas and hydro, and another jurisdiction that has coal, and another one that has, different mix of fuels. Nuclear might be thrown into it, and so the complexity of reforming this system it's not a small task. Correct?
No, in fact, it's similar or even more difficult than the task of liberalizing, which is what happened in the 90s and the early 2000s. There are going to be a lot of players that have a stake in sticking to the system that they've got. Governments, regulators may not want to change it, but essentially technology is moving everything forward so fast that it's very difficult for companies to stay competitive and for governments to stick with the old system. And examples are, I sent you today an example of a real live, commercial proposition, which is consistent with this model. This is not something way out into the future. This is something that is here now. And that's a company called Octopus, which has wind turbines in the North Sea, and it sells electricity to consumers in the nearby zone at a discount. And the discount is about 20% if they sign up for this, but it goes down to 50% discount if there's a lot of wind. So you're basically getting an incentive for those consumers to consume their energy whenever the wind is strong. Okay, so we see commercial examples of this today.
Yeah, that it seems like on the commercial side, there's a lot of immediate application. And so, for instance, yesterday I was interviewing Bertha de Brey, who is in charge of the Netherlands integration of electric vehicles into the grid. And he was talking about how the ability of, say, a commercial fleet of electric vehicles, those batteries can then be used to do exactly the thing that you're talking about. So they would, say a trucking company that had 1,000 electric delivery vans would schedule its charging when they got the 50% discount as opposed to when prices would be higher.
And not only that, two things to say. One is that they're going to sell energy to the system, not just buy it at a different time. All those batteries are a source of energy, which can then help to supply the system with zero carbon energy whenever it's short of renewables. Okay, so that's one. The other thing is that you've just pointed to is the integration of the energy system. We're no longer talking about electricity. We're talking about electricity and transport. And what we see is, for instance, Volkswagen now wants to get into the electricity business. They want to manage the batteries in the cars that they sell, because they say if they manage those batteries, they will be able to ensure that they have a longer life. And also they will be able to make money selling energy energy services, flexibility service into the market.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I think as a journalist, not as an academic or somebody in the industry, but my observation is that the system is becoming increasingly complex. And there are all sorts of opportunities now on the generation and distribution side, on the consuming side, and some of these are melding and overlapping, and it's the design of the markets that you suggest that kind of mediates how all of that takes place. Is that an accurate observation?
Yes, because at the end of the day, if price signals aren't efficient, then all of these markets won't work efficiently. So if you want to give, for instance, you want to give someone a signal to invest in a battery, that you have to give them the option to buy electricity when it's cheap in the renewables market, in this as available market, and to sell electricity into the on-demand market when there's a need for flexibility. So if you don't have price differentials between those two different times, when there's lots and lots of available renewables and when there's none, then you're not going to have a signal to invest in renewables. All of these investments require the right price signals, and that's that's what markets are there for.
David, thank you very much for this. This has been very enlightening, and I'll be interested to see the response to your proposals.
Yep, thanks very much. It was a pleasure to speak with you.